host, Lloyd Shoemaker, with Coach Grasso.
Hello, everyone. You're watching the Piqua Boys Basketball Coaches Show live on the Indian Nation Station YouTube page, brought to you by Piqua Digital Media. Hello, everyone. I'm Lloyd Shoemaker, and alongside me is the star of our program, the Coach Grasso. Congratulations on last night. You got a win in your column.
Thanks.
That's good.
Feels good to get one on the board.
We'll get back to that, talk about that more, but I do want to touch base a little bit on some of the, as I mentioned when we first started talking here, I'm somewhat of a stat nut, and I've got all kind of pages in front of me, and some of it might make sense and some of it may not. But looking at where we were last year at this time after 6 games, 2 and 4, 1 and 5 now. But 2 of those games, the Tip City game and the Miamisburg game, you could have won those, right?
So we had 4 so far, and yeah, the first one with Butler, energetic crowd, a lot of good energy. First night, and very good team. They wore us down a little bit, and also we played Sydney's first home game with their first game back with as a returning. Bringing Andre Gordon back, who's signed to play in the ACC High Division I player. So our 2 of those 4 were tough, and the other 2, Miamisburg was one that was actually, we snuck up on them a little bit. It was the second of a back-to-back, and they're a good team. They're 5-2 currently, and they were 18-4 last year. So they had an opportunity. We got a shot up late, and it got tipped. They have 2 6'6" brothers. That both play in the middle, and one of them got a piece of a shot where we were down 1. We fouled them, and then they hit both free throws, and we came down, missed the front end, got a rebound, and just missed a 3 to tie it. So, it was a good learning experience. I had a chance to compete against a really good team there. Came up short at Tip. It was also their first Friday night home game as well. So another electric crowd. Played well. We had the lead at the half. We let one of their guards get loose a little bit in the third quarter. They spaced out the lead. And no disrespect to them, but it was more a learning experience for us. We were really careless with the basketball. We had some uncharacteristic turnovers, high turnover totals from a couple from our team, and specifically from our lead guards, which senior players, you don't expect those things to happen. So unfortunately, we came out of there with a loss, but when you lose by 25, or when you lose by 7 and you have 25 turnovers, it tells you you're in the right position. You just need to clean up your game a little bit. So we look at it as kind of a learning experience, and the return game to us will be here, and we will have grown from that, and I would expect to see, us come out on top there.
Yeah, that game's coming up.
That's not till late in the season.
Yeah, late in the
beginning
season.
Of February.
Yeah, actually the 1st, Friday the 1st of February at Piqua High School.
Yep.
But yeah, you're right, 25 turnovers in a ball game. You're talking 5th, 6th grade stuff. Actually,
right, and many of our turnovers it was dribbling off your foot, traveling, things that were uncharacteristic, and as mentioned, it was players who are seasoned. So a learning experience, you grow from it and you move forward.
I think I misspoke earlier. I think I said you were 1 and 5. You're 1 and 4.
Right.
Actually, and could be 3 and 1, 3 and 2.
Well, I think we could be
at least 2.
We hope to be at minimum 2 and 2, and but we are where we are at this point, and we're moving forward. We hope to be. We talked our big focus this week was to be 1-0 on Tuesday, with an opportunity to be 1-0 on Friday. So that's how we're kind of focusing. Those 4 games are in the past. We've learned from them, and we're moving forward.
And you're right about Butler. They got a strong team, and that they got out on top of you in that ball game pretty quick, and there just wasn't any way. They were on a roll.
The other thing with our team, especially if you look at our roster, we only had 2, and I would say another half a player I would say consider, because they were players who only played about half a season or role-playing minutes last year. So it's a young team, really. There's only a few players who have experienced the varsity level. And so when you go into a situation like that where they're returning all 5 starters who have been a seasoned team that have won 18 games, you're up against it.
Yeah.
So
not much you can do about that except play as hard as you can play.
Play as hard as you can play, and learn from the experience. If you have a chance to win, great. If not, you move on to the next one.
This coming Friday night, this is the 19th of December that we're doing this show. This coming Friday night, you're out of school. You're in school on Friday? In
school tomorrow and Friday are our exam days. And
then Friday night you got Troy.
Yes, correct.
And how's Troy doing this year?
They've been preparing for them actually a little bit here over last evening and this morning, and they have a good team that plays with a lot of energy. They're not overly big, but they play a lot of players, and they get after it on defense, and kind of similar teams. So really, it's going to be. I think it's a very even matchup, and it'll be one that will be exciting to see, and it'll come down to the wire.
Well, following the Troy game, the following week, you're off, of course, for Christmas until I think the 4th of January, out of school.
School-wise, yeah.
School-wise, basketball is still going to be playing, but do you start the 27th with the holiday tournament with the Lehman Catholic, I believe?
Yep.
And then also you've got Troy Christian and Bethel in this year.
Yeah, so some good historical programs that have been good for the last 15, 20 years there. And we're excited for the opportunity, local teams, and as mentioned, right now we look at those. It's a great chance for us to host the games, obviously, but we're just 100% focused on Troy right now, and a chance to be 1-0 at that point. So
I noticed this year we don't have any Shelby County League teams. They give you some real competition, don't they?
Sure. Yeah. That's we're kind of transitioning the schedule a little bit, and then as we transition to the Miami Valley League, we're only going to have 4 out-of-conference games available anyway. So we're kind of changing the schedule a little bit, and that's how we're rotating. We still play this year St. Mary's and Elida in the middle of the season. So, but yeah, we're kind of moving towards. We have an 18-game Miami Valley League schedule. Everybody plays twice, and then we have 4 available games, and a couple of them are already locked up with home and home schedules. Like Miamisburg was the beginning of that, so we'll play there next year. And we also brought on Tecumseh, and that'll be another one that's a home and home. And with our holiday tournament, that's all we have. We only get 22, so we're kind of transitioning this year.
Now, is Tecumseh part of the new league?
They're not. No, that was just one that was scheduled for us, a common opponent that's in the D1 sectional, and a good game for us to potentially pick up a win on our schedule, and they look at it the same way. So
is this your last year for playing Trotwood?
Last year for playing Trotwood, yes.
That's got to make us put a smile on your face.
Well, maybe after we play them. They're on a mission this year. They've put up 100 in every game they've played so far.
They had 135 against
they have,
West Carrollton, I think.
They've got a really talented and athletic roster. So we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But yeah, that's the last time we'll play them for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, that's not such a bad deal, actually. They're fun to watch, but they're not fun to watch when they're playing you guys.
Them, right?
So let's get to the game last night. 70 points scored, the highest so far this year. You gave up, I think, 45.
Yeah.
It was a decent ball game up until the last part of the second quarter, and then you came out in the third quarter, and Corey just drove them nuts trying to get the ball up the floor. I don't know how many points he made off of turnovers, but there in that beginning of that third quarter, all of a sudden you're up by 15 points.
Yeah, that's our team. Our motto and our style of play. What we like to do is force teams to be uncomfortable, and we were able to ratchet up our energy a little bit, and we came out kind of flat in the beginning. It was a tie ball game after a quarter. The second quarter we brought it up a little bit more, and then we had put a lot of emphasis on our defense transitioning into offense for us, and we were able to put together maybe like a 10-0 run to start the quarter, and that was when we were able to pull away from them a little bit. So.
Well, last year you beat them towards the end of the season, 84-51, and then over at Greenville early you put 90 on them.
Yeah, well, interestingly, we could have had either one of those numbers this year. We had 70, and we missed probably 15 layups and 15 free throws. So
yeah, your free throw shooting last night was atrocious.
And I'm not really sure what the issue is. We've been a decent free throw shooting team, and we make them in practice. It's just a focus thing with free throws. You know, it's something that as a coach, the players have to manage those things on their own. You give them opportunities to shoot them, and you give them pointers about making sure that their rhythm and routine in the release. I call it the 3 R's, but they got to focus and shoot them in. So that's that simple. We'll be fine going forward with that.
Yeah, at one point last night, sitting at the table, I was talking to Rob Kaiser, and he keeps those stats. I don't keep that kind of information, but he said at one point you were 5 of 17 or something like that.
I believe it. I haven't looked at the exact stats yet, but I'm sure it was just a pathetic free throw percentage overall. But like I said, it'll be addressed, and they'll have to focus in and knock them down. So, and I think we will moving forward. In a game like Friday, where it's going to be tightly contested, it doesn't matter when you're up 20 or down 20 or whatever the case might be, but when you're in a couple possession game, an old coach of mine used to always say, free throws don't win every game, but they win the close ones.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you're exactly. It's basically the 1-and-1s.
Right.
That first one is the one that you have to put in there. My coach always told me the 2 easiest shots in basketball were the layup and the free throw.
Absolutely, it's a pretty simple game if you do the things that you need to do the right way, the simple ones.
Yeah. Trey had a good game last night. He seemed to be on the boards pretty well, and you can certainly tell that young man has been hitting the weights.
Yeah, he's put in a lot of work and effort. It's always great to see young guys that put in a lot of time and focus on their improving their body and improving their skills and see it pay off on the court. It's awesome. He had a great summer, was in the weight room, and has continued to work in the weight room, and he's worked on his skills. And I think we see that overall. The stats aren't out yet, but just from our raw stats from the bench, he was near a triple-double, 18 points, 8 or 9 rebounds, and 8 or 9 assists. So we'll see when it finally comes out. But when a player can do that, that's a special night, regardless of who you're playing.
Corey last night had an opportunity to put one down.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if he got the ball above the rim, but I know his hand hit the rim.
Yeah. He had a breakaway there and was feeling good, and he went up and tried to throw it down, and that's one of those where, as a coach, you like that for the opportunity for the kid, but you'd love to have the 2 points.
Yeah.
And he didn't finish it, so I had to take him out of the game and let him think about it from there.
Yeah, sure. But if he'd have made it, would you have taken him out?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
But in a situation where the game is, pretty much under control for you, in a tight game, that would not have been.
And he probably wouldn't have done it.
No, he probably wouldn't.
Especially being, again, we talk about one of the few seasoned players that we have. He understands the situations in the game. So
I'm seeing a lot of junior high games this year because of my grandson playing, and I've seen a lot of these kids are putting so much arc on those 3-point shots.
Yeah.
Is this something new?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's a revolution in the game, and it's just it starts with Steph Curry and. Because as when we were growing up, and I'm sure when you were growing up, it was a big man's game, and it's kind of transitioned a little bit. Even in the NBA, there's the power forward position is no longer a position. There's a center who protects the rim and scores around the rim, but that player has moved out. So it's everybody, and that gives smaller kids the opportunity to. They see Steph as 6'3" guard, and he controls the games and shoots the threes, and there's several other players like that have gone through. The guy from Oklahoma last year that was drafted by Atlanta Hawks. So they see those players and say, hey, that guy kind of looks like me. He's not 6'8". I can maybe be 6'1" and I can shoot. So they see him shooting from all over the place, and that's kind of just the revolution of the game. So.
The one exception to that is number 11. He gets that ball and he 2 dribbles and goes.
Yeah.
He takes everything to the basket, and he's either going to make it or draw the foul.
Yeah. Yep.
He just one thing I haven't seen him do yet this year is jump over somebody going for the basket like he did in football. He goes to the basket.
Really proud of Mick's performance last night specifically. He's been struggling with the shot, and we talked a lot about one thing that you can always control is your effort and your defense, and then when you have the ability to get to the rim, it draws attention to you, and you can dish the ball off to others. So we focused on if your shot's falling, that's great. When you get an opportunity to shoot the open ones, definitely, put them up there. We know you can knock them down. He did it last year for us, and but if not, they know you're going to shoot. So you can use that pump fake, get to the rim, get fouled, or drop it off to a buddy. And we gave him the defensive assignment. Greenville has a guy that really likes to shoot from deep, and that was his assignment. And he ended up getting loose in the second half, but after Mick was not guarding him. So we want to really commend his efforts last night, and I think we'll see that going forward. He's going to be our kind of defensive stalwart and somebody who can penetrate and pitch to others. So
you kind of thought that was going to be Corey this year, didn't you?
Well, it's a lot to ask. I mean, he does the top of the guard the point guard and cause the havoc like you mentioned. Along with the little sophomore Cam Darner, he's a little fly that just kind of, his hands are always active around the ball. And
not much of him.
No, not much.
He's in your face.
And so that's, and then also Zach Levy comes in there and does a good job as off the bench, and he can really guard the ball. So we really needed people to guard the wings when there's players who can shoot and score in other ways. And so especially when, if you're asking Corey to maybe get 15 or 20 a night, that's a lot of emphasis to do both sides. So we try to, let him focus on handling the ball pressure up front, and then we'll let Mick handle guarding other players.
You're right about last year, because when Mick came into the ball game, he didn't start ball games for you, but he came into the ball game for you. You could count on 2 or 3 threes anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he was, that's one of the fun roles in basketball. I actually did that as a player for a while. Is you can come off the bench and it's like the old player, the microwave. You come in and get hot and hit a couple buckets and give your team some energy. And so then when it comes to be you playing the minutes as opposed to being the sub, if they're not falling, then you're not really providing a lot to the court. So that's what we talked about. You can still, if you're going to be one of the main guys, you can, if your shot's not falling, you can still do other things that are going to help the team. It's okay, right? And we need, somebody who's a great athlete like Mick to do those things for the team, and he's really stepped up, so it's awesome.
Let's talk a little bit about your bench. The young fellow that goes in for Riley, what was that, 5 or 21? Who is that? Is that
so 21 is Zach Tillman. He's a senior center. He's about 6'2" and got some long arms.
He did a good job last night.
Yeah, he rebounds, gets around the rim. He kind of understands that's where he lives and where he can help us not being an overly tall team. Is he can get in there, kind of get into the gaps and get some passes dropped off, and then hit the boards when we need him to. So, yeah, he's a really good addition to the team.
And then Jordan, Marcus.
Yeah, he's a guy that kind of has the knack for kind of a true point guard, where he can set players up for shots and get into areas that other guys can't with the dribble and make the right pass. So for him, it's just making sure he's doing everything he's supposed to do to be able to have an opportunity, and we got to really tip our cap to him because he's been working hard in the classroom and got himself able to play a couple games, and hopefully that continues going forward. So
the next guy is not the biggest guy on your team, but he's the tallest guy on your team. He's your long-range bomber, and he's injured.
Yeah,
Ventura.
Yeah, he had a stress fracture in his foot. He played actually with it for a week or two. We couldn't really figure out. The training staff said no, he didn't roll his ankle, and he was really struggling a little bit with that. So when he could stretch the defense a little bit because he's kind of a tough matchup, being a 6'4", 6'5" guy that can step out and hit him, and so hopefully we'll have an opportunity to get him back later on in the season. So.
Yeah, we talked about earlier. We talked about Trotwood, and once you get through the holiday season, that first game back, January 4th, at home, is Trotwood coming in? You need the bomber.
We'll see. We'll see if he's cleared at that point. If not, we'll keep on keeping on. But
There's a young guy, tall young guy on your JV team that's getting some varsity playing time, and that's Mr. Shrub.
Yeah.
He's
He's
a physical player.
Yeah.
He seems to be a lot more physical in the JV game than he is in the varsity game, and I don't know if that's confidence yet or what it is, but he does, when he's out there on that JV game, he doesn't have a problem at all pushing people around and driving into them and guarding face right in their face.
Yeah, he's one that's coming right along for us. He'll be this season even, and in the future, he's definitely will be a guy that you'll see out there. Mixing it up on the inside and provides an athleticism and a little bit of attitude to the game. So if there's any more Shrubs, and actually I know there are, we can keep on filtering them through.
Bring them on down. Well, you got the Seaver kid too on the JV team.
Yeah, he's a hustler, hard worker, and he's a guy that is always going to bring great energy. And one thing I really like about him is anytime that at a timeout, if I'm addressing the whole team, his eyes are always locked directly in. And as a coach, you recognize those kids who are focused and devoted to what their coach is saying.
So what do you do just to kind of wrap this up with put you on the spot as a coach? Mm-hmm. What do you talk to the kids about as far as being able to score more, be more effective with your shots? It's not that they're taking bad shots, it doesn't appear. It's just that a lot of the shots they're putting up there are just a little short, a little long.
It's interesting. In our preseason, every one of our scrimmages, we had 4 of them, as a team we hit a minimum of 10 threes. And now that things have ratcheted into the games, our percentages have been down, and it's just a direct result of players understanding. It's something that I'm sure coaches have said since the beginning of time. Mm-hmm. But there's a difference between going in the gym and shooting shots and shooting them at the speed and the pace that you'll shoot in games. And that goes for free throws. It's a focus that's a little bit different. When you're working on your jumpers from 3, or even when you're finishing up and around the rim, like we mentioned before last night, 15 I'd say layups that could have easily put us over the 80 to 90 point mark, and then our threes weren't falling again last night. And we said, hey, let's just get it to the rim as much as possible. But we do a lot of shooting in practice, and it's just in order for them to start falling in games, they need to be practice at the speed in which they would shoot in games, and that's something that young players learn as they continue on in the varsity level.
On the stat sheet for this year, through the first games, 17 out of 44 threes, shooting about 28%.
Yeah, yep, and that's not going to get it done. Our goal is to be, as a team, to be around 35% and above would be where we'd like to be. So.
Well, another thing, too, is you're missing Smeezing underneath there for all those offensive and defensive rebounds. Offensive, more probably than the defensive, because when he got an offensive rebound, I would say 80% of the time it turned out to be 2 points for you.
Definitely, or at least him getting fouled and making 1 out of 2.
Yeah.
But, yeah, he's a guy that, is not easily replaceable for a lot of reasons. His leadership and his determination and effort is unparalleled by most any player that I've coached, and so we're definitely, he's a guy that we're missing, but we got to keep on keeping on with the guys that we have. So
yeah, well, the thing is, there'll be another one of those guys come out of the woodwork sometime.
Yeah, Trey has done a great job this year, being a second chance guy, getting around the rim and getting it back up there with his length and athleticism. So and we want to keep on working with our big guys to be on the glass when they have the opportunity, because we're actually not that small of a team for a change. I mean, we have some decently sized guys, so we need to take advantage of the things that we can control. So,
speaking of definitely sized guys, last night I looked at you and gave you a 9 on Riley Hill's taking that charge. I don't know, that kid that ran into him wasn't half his size, and he went down like a rock.
Yeah.
So I think he gets the Academy Award for that performance. He
did a good acting job there to sell it to the ref, but at the same time, I mean, the rules of the game, if a guy puts his shoulder into you and you fall backwards, they're gonna call it, because you're entitled to your space. So.
Yeah, well, It's
But yeah,
it's only a foul if the whistle blows.
That's true.
Yeah, that's when my wife says, well, why is it watching Ohio State games? Why didn't they call a foul there? Well, it wasn't a foul.
Right.
It was the whistle didn't blow.
That's
so
right.
It's not a penalty.
Exactly.
So, well, Coach, we want to thank you for your time again today, and good luck the rest of the season.
You. Appreciate it.
We'll be back in touch with you after the holidays and get another show in and talk about some more of your victories. We want to remind you again that you're watching the Piqua Boys Basketball Coaches Show live on the Indian Nation YouTube page, brought to you by the Piqua Digital Media. I'm Lloyd Shoemaker, your host, and we want to thank you for joining us, and we'll see you the next time.